one lane? What's up, everybody? We're back out at Midway, another Friday night. We got the pure stock out, but a different driver. Rob's gonna try his luck at it here. Rob's got, Rob, you probably think you got more experience in the pure stock here than anybody else here tonight, don't you?
Rob was so.
I remember Rob, ever since I was a little kid, Rob's raced pure stocks here every weekend. It probably is the last 3 or 4 or 5 years that you've...
I know. It's probably been 7 years since I've been in pure stock.
Has it really been that long?
Yeah.
He's got a lot of experience here, so hopefully we can get it dialed in tonight. Not a big crowd, not like normal, maybe even a little bit less than it has been. It is super humid. I don't know if you can tell, I'm just sweating. It's rough. The air temperature is not that bad. Even in the sun, it's just so humid. The air is so heavy. We had a little bit of rain this morning. I think the track's going to be pretty good tonight. Hopefully it won't dry out too bad, especially with it being so humid and not very many cars. I don't think it will unless Clint hasn't watered it at all. But hopefully it'll be a good night tonight. Shannon Will's brother's out. His Midwest mod. We'll see how it goes. We had a pretty good run last week. Third. Wasn't too bad. First time ever out in the car. We'll see how she does this week. We think probably need to get a new transmission. That's probably one of the only things that really big things that need changed, I think. Trying to hunt for a 3-speed here. If anybody knows any, message Rob or Brian on Facebook probably. You'd probably be interested in one. But still cars rolling in here. I think the US MTS guys were supposed to race at Lakeside. They got rained out, and I think I-70, I think Rob said too. I seen on Facebook that Midway posted and asked them to come here. I don't know if there is any. There's a couple modifieds I don't recognize, but I think the US MTS guys are A-mods, and none of these look like A-mods, so I'm not sure if anybody's here. They're racing at Lucas tomorrow. Brian thinks they probably all just went to Lucas and camped out for the night, but we'll see. Hopefully we'll have a few. That'd be a good show. But I think the car's ready to go. We're just waiting on drivers meeting hot laps here, and we'll be ready to roll. Well, Rob's rolling out for hot laps. Guess we'll see if the old man still got it.
Brakes are good, but they don't turn.
The last turn was the best turn.
When I throw it in there?
You had to huck it hard, man.
I could have done it the whole race, but I didn't. I heard the whole deal. Yeah, I let off that last quarter. I don't know. So you go in and push, and then take you when you push it, but soon you got to turn and go. What?
Well, it didn't look too bad in hot laps. It's still way too wet. They let pretty much every class go out and pack the track for probably 5 or 10 minutes. I think it's almost an hour past start time. It's still super wet. They throwing it in. It just pushed up the track real bad. No front grip going in. It looked pretty good coming out. They probably ran 7, 8 hot laps, quite a few. The last turn, he threw it in super hard, got back on the gas real quick, drove it probably more like a stock car, and it turned. That's definitely the best turn, but I don't think he could do that every turn for an entire race. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to tell if the car needs adjusting because it's just so wet. I think it's just because the track's so wet. And honestly, I don't know how much more it's going to dry. We were talking up there at other classes back in the track, and this might be a 2-groove racetrack tonight. I I'm afraid the bottom's going to be so wet that it's going to be really sketchy, because as soon as you get too low, you're going to get in the mud and just slide up the track real bad. So I think the high line might come into effect here. Lane, you want to say hi?
Hi.
Hi, can you wave?
Yeah, you go off in there and I don't want to do that top lap.
Who? Jacob's little boy, Lane. I think Jacob and Sabrina are over in the stands tonight. But I don't know, it looked pretty good. The pure stock class here is usually pretty competitive. Same group of guys pretty much every week. And there doesn't really seem to be one guy that dominates every week, you know, wins every week. So I think we got a good chance here. Hopefully Rob can get his feet back under him. He looked pretty good. It seemed like you could tell he was kind of driving the car like a pure stock the first few laps, and then he had to really huck it in there. I mean, throw it in hard and get back on the gas to keep it from pushing, but he'd still slide up middle of turn to exit. Really difficult in these lower horsepower cars with less grip, less suspension geometry to really hug the track and get a good bite on it. You're kind of just skating, especially when it's really slick like this. You're just skating on ice. But hopefully there's about the same number of cars here as there always is. Hopefully we get it blown off and burn in and end up having a pretty good surface for the rest of the night. Rob just rolled out for his heat. Starts third row outside. Not a great draw, but good for passing points. Watched the first super stock heat, and there's all around the top. The bottom's still super muddy. Not real sure how it's going to go in the pure stocks. Pure stocks usually run the bottom around here, but you never know. With it being so muddy, maybe they'll just start running the high line. Rob's not really a high line guy, but hopefully we can make something work here. Have a good finish. wasn't sure. It looked really fast right at the beginning. Good jump. But it just kind of seemed like it got slower. Brian thinks he needs a little bit more gear. But they're not back yet. He's down at the water spigot. I figured it probably got hot. There's a lot of mud on the grill, and it's got pretty good sized grill openings, but there's like chicken wire or whatever across the front of the mesh, and it just caked. And it got a little warm last week, so I figured it got pretty warm this week too. Get a little warm?
Yeah, like 220.
Yeah, your grill's, it's caked.
Yeah. One lane, you can't.
Yeah, one lane around the top. That's not normal. I don't know how well you guys can see that, but there are holes here. Somewhere. Mine's pretty muddy too. Track's actually pretty decent, like moisture-wise, but it's one lane around the top. Completely the opposite of normal, but maybe as the night goes on, it'll work down. They'll have 2 lanes. That'd be pretty cool. It's usually one lane they start around the bottom, so at least it's something a little different. Rob's getting loaded up for his feature here. Starts 5th row inside. Not great, but we'll see what he can do. The truck looks pretty decent. It's in good shape. Still really wet around the bottom. Super stocks are out there right now, and they're all kind of running the top side, cutting off the second half of the turn, which I really don't know. Probably gonna be about that in the pure stocks too, I'd say. It's 15 laps. He's got plenty of time. Been 2 or 3 wrecks in the super stocks already. I figure this pure stocks will probably be close to the same. Plenty of restarts to maybe make up some ground here. But first night back in a long time in pure stock. Hopefully we can have a good night here. Not too bad of a night. It's rough. It says the handle's pretty good. Just doesn't seem to have a lot of speed. That wasn't too bad. Luckily we stayed out of it just seemed kind of really intense and wild almost. Not being around the bottom like it normally is, nose to tail. There were guys sliding all over the track. It's still pretty wet. For these cars, I figure instead of like B mods, the Superstock race looked pretty good. Except a little more horsepower. But, not too bad. We're letting it up one piece. It's always good. And we'll live to fight another day. Not too bad for, I think he said this is probably the first time in 7 years he's running pure stock. It's not too bad. It's still awful muddy. I didn't look at the grill. Oh yeah, she's still caked.
Yeah, he was trying to get up in second and he threw his hands up and I told him to go third.
We'll load the car up. I'm not sure what will be next week. We'll Brian, I usually text Brian or usually text me Thursday and says, hey, we're racing here, racing there. Might be up in Lucas next week, or I don't know if we'll be out Friday anywhere or not. But either way, we'll load up the car. Luckily I'm close to home this week. Last week Bolivar is at least an hour and a half, probably an hour 45 almost for me to get all the way home. I live about 5 minutes from here, so I'll take out. I'll load the car up and head back to the house. We'll see you guys at the track.